Conference Championship weekend. I love everything about this. The game of the year of the week. I know I say it every week. This week I really mean it. Kansas City, Buffalo, and the destiny of the week of the year. Washington and Philadelphia. Who do the numbers favor? Who do you trust? Is it time for a coronation or a vanquishing? Let's go around the horn. Oh, baby, here we go again. On our own. Going down the only road we've ever known. Regular season, the Buffalo Bills have the head-to-head 4-1. Postseason, Kansas City has the head-to-head 3-0. So in preview extravaganza of yet another Kansas City-Buffalo matchup, I ask, will it be a coronation for Kansas City or a vanquishing and Buffalo finally breaking through? But for starters, humor me, national battle. Take the team names and player names off the jerseys, erase the team records, pocket your I'm not betting against Mahomes or Kansas City is inevitable or Buffalo can't get over the hump arguments for a moment. Kevin Clark, around the horn to you. Who is the better team right now heading into this AFC title game?
I'm going to start with my I'm a man of science take, and that's this. Number one, these Buffalo Bills are really good at playing against the blitz. The Kansas City Chiefs, obviously top 5 at blitzing in the league. Well, the Buffalo Bills offensive line is top 5 in allowing pressures against the blitz. They're really good. Josh Allen is the second best quarterback in the NFL against pressure. There's a lot of cases to be made that the Buffalo Bills are going to score a bunch of points this weekend, or more than they have to. Having said that, I will never bet against the Kansas City Chiefs. I will never bet against Patrick Mahomes because, to quote the great football philosopher John Gruden, Patrick Mahomes isn't into dreams, he's into nightmares. And it is a nightmare to play against Patrick Mahomes because he always does just enough to win. 16 straight one-score wins, 12 one-score wins just this season, the most in the history of the NFL. This is an astounding team that knows exactly what they have to do in every situation. This Bills team, if you're just doing blind resumes, gets the win, but that's not what I'm going with.
Okay, wait, this is an astounding answer, to borrow your word, because I don't think you answered the question until the very end there. I asked, blind resume, who is the better team right now? Your answer to that question, Kevin Clark.
Is the Buffalo Bills, but that's not, they don't play the game with blind resumes.
Right, we're not playing the game right now either. I'm asking, just humor me, Mina Kives. Who is the better team right now?
I think the Bills are the slightly better team just in terms of blind resume, but I think more importantly than that, Tony, they're the better team because they match up well with Kansas City, which is what these playoffs are all about. Okay. It's what you saw on display during the regular season. So the Kansas City Chiefs have an elite cornerback, Trent McDuffie. If you have a number one wide receiver to sacrifice to him, that's a problem. It was a problem with the Houston Texans and Nico Collins. He was in his hip pocket the entire game. The Bills don't have a number one wide receiver. They have a bunch of guys that they can use to hunt matchups. So there's really not that same advantage from having Trent McDuffie. And you saw that the last time, by the way. They used Curtis Samuel, Khalil Shakir to go after the linebackers, the safeties, the other cornerbacks on the Kansas City Chiefs. I think a similar dynamic is going to play out this time. I think this version of the Bills is built to take on this version of the Kansas City Chiefs.
Courtney Cronin, around the horn to you. Who's the better team right now?
It's Buffalo, and to pick up where Mina left off there, they're not compromised in the place where they have been before. Their offensive line is their strength. So you're taking an equal strength of what Kansas City's going to try to counter with that, which is their defense and Steve Spagnuolo's well-timed blitz, knowing when to bring pressure. We saw it last week when the Chiefs looked like they could be got, and that the Houston Texans were mounting that comeback. Well, Spags dials up the pressure and puts an end to that, but the Bills are playing better football right now, scoring a ton of points. They have 8 turnovers this whole season. And to watch what Josh Allen has done, playing mistake-free football, the best of his career at this point, that's the type of performance you need to go into Kansas City to threaten the Chiefs and win.
David Dennis Jr., around the horn to you. Better team right now.
Better team right now is the team that has Patrick Mahomes. And we'll see here the difference from what happened in Week 11 to week now. There are things that I just don't think that he will do that he did in the regular season. He started the game with a bad pick. He ended the game with a pick, and that really shifted the time of possession a lot to the Bills' favor. I think that Mahomes will erase some of those some of those turnovers, especially because the fact they have not turned the ball over since then in Week 11. So I think they can hold on to that time possession. Also in that game, Kelsey was only 2 receptions for 8 yards. Last week, Mahomes was 10 for 11 on about 12 yards per catch to those tight ends. These are the things that ramp up in the playoffs that I think Mahomes is going to use to his advantage.
Kevin Clark, back to you. Any other matchup advantages or disadvantages you're flagging?
Yeah, first of all, playoff Kelsey, we haven't even brought him up. I mean, he's going to get open in that Buffalo defense. What does he do? And then the thing I'm watching is Buffalo is injured in their secondary right now. Taylor Rapp is out. A couple other injuries there. That's the one you don't want to be injured going against Mahomes.
And Mina, any other matchups you're circling?
Well, another thing that happened the last time, to David's point with Patrick Mahomes, that I don't expect to happen again, 0 scrambling attempts. I mean, this is what Patrick Mahomes does in the playoffs. He carries the football. I do think Buffalo is very good at stopping scrambling quarterbacks. You saw that in the last round, but I would expect Mahomes to use
All right, it's time. Time for who you got and how this game will be won. The Mina Kimes around the horn to you. Whoa, what happened there? I didn't touch anything. You saw it. I didn't touch anything. Go ahead, Mina.
Can I speak? Okay, I can. I'm going with the Buffalo Bills for the reasons I articulated at the top. I think this version of the Bills offense is built to take on this version of the Chiefs.
Courtney Cronin.
I, too, am going with the Buffalo Bills. This run game has evolved significantly since their last matchup in Week 11, and they've gone 12 games this season without turning the ball over. It becomes 13 on Sunday.
David Dennis Jr.
I'm going Chiefs, and they're going to do this at the last second like they have been doing all season, leaving Buffalo to feel like they should have won that game, just like a lot of other teams that lose to the Chiefs this season.
Kevin Clark.
It's the Chiefs. It's close, late field goal, something like that. These guys are supernaturally good.
Something like that.
All the analytics things,
Scoop of chocolate,
all the
scoop of
analytics
vanilla.
I
Don't waste my
like,
time.
Go out the window.
All right. Commanders, Eagles
dumb.
now. Here's video of Jalen Hurts at practice moving. His knee injury from Sunday was one thing you may have been wondering how he'll look in practice. Everybody has a different view of how he looked in practice, but you can tell me how you feel. Hurts versus Jaden Daniels. Of course, they don't match up against each other, but to focus on the quarterbacks, which quarterback would you rather have in this matchup? And Washington's team of destiny status. One game away from the Super Bowl. They would be the longest preseason odds in 4 decades to make it, and Daniels would be the first rookie quarterback ever to make it, win a championship game. That's uncharted territory. Mina Kimes, around the horn to you on an X factor or matchup that decides this one.
Yeah, well, to answer your question, I'd rather have Jaden Daniels, but I'm taking the Philadelphia Eagles in this one because of a different Jalen, not their quarterback, Jalen Carter, who has the single biggest matchup advantage in this game. The Commanders lost a starting right guard, Tam Cosmi, their best interior offensive lineman. He tore his ACL. Terrible timing because Jalen Carter is playing out of his mind right now, and because of him, they don't have to blitz Daniels the way teams have done to disastrous effect. They can lean on that format.
Courtney Cronin, X factor or matchup for you in this one?
My X factor is the obvious one. It's Saquon Barkley, and I know that he hasn't had, like, bulk volume-wise, the most rushing success against this Washington Commanders defense before. In the meetings that they've seen them in this season, 3 carries went for 130 yards and 3 touchdowns. 26 other ones went for 2 yards or less. But with Jalen Hurts said today he's going to be wearing a brace on his knee. His mobility is going to be at a disadvantage here. So I'm going to lean on the run game the way that they did in the elements at the Link last week, and I think that's the formula that they use on.
Give me that stat again. It's always interesting. You could look at yards per carry and say this is all added up to something good. But you just said it. There were 3 runs, and then everything else was shut down. The stat once again.
The stat is 26 carries went for 2 yards or less in their matchups with Washington this season, and that 3 of them went for 130 yards and 3 touchdowns.
David Dennis Jr., X factor matchup on this one that decides it all. Washington, Philly.
Yeah, it's that offensive line of Philadelphia versus that defensive line of the Commanders. Look, I understand the stats that Cronin just laid out. A lot of that was because that second game, Hurts went out. The Commanders were able to load the box and really focus on stopping Saquon Barkley. But in the playoffs, they've allowed 4.3 yards before contact. That includes last week when the Lions really were having to throw the ball to catch up. That defensive line, I'm still feeling like it's porous against that Eagles offensive line. I think that's going to be a huge difference.
And Kevin Clark.
Keep agreeing with David, which worries me. But no, for me, I
Doesn't
think
worry
Saquon
David.
Barkley,
He's getting those points.
For me, it's Saquon Barkley. Most yards before contact in the NFL this year. Washington was the worst defense at allowing yards before contact. At some point, that's going to add up. As David said, when Hurts went out, they were able to stack the box and change the entire tone of this game. I know Jaden Daniels is an absolute phenomenon. I think he's about to have an amazing career, but the Eagles have the best roster in football. Jalen Hurts was really good, even last week, under 10 yards when he got rid of the ball quickly. 6 of his 7 sacks last week came when he held the ball for longer than 4 seconds. Get rid of the ball, don't do too much. And get
Well, that's what Daniels did in the second matchup. I know Hurts was injured in that matchup, but he played against the Eagles' vaunted defense. And you saw what he did, 5 touchdowns. All right, I'm hearing some music. I need a pick. And how it's decided. Mita comes around the horn to you.
I'm going with the Eagles because the defense made a lot of uncharacteristic errors in that last matchup. They did contain him for much of the game, though, and I think that.
Cronin.
I'm going the Eagles, and I'll say it's an A.J. Brown game-winning touchdown before he goes back to the bench and opens up his book.
David Ennis Jr.
My heart is with the Jaden Daniels story, but I got to go with the Eagles.
Kevin Clark.
I'm going Eagles here by 10.
Gonna check out the gremlins underneath this desk here. Muting people without touching. Taking a break. Buy or sell next.
Welcome back to Around the Horn, coming to you from the Heineken River Deck at Pier 17.
This NFL coaching cycle got a little crazy with this Jacksonville Jaguar story. Let's dive in. Jaguars naming Liam Cohen their head coach today. What we think we know and what has been reported here. Cohen was interviewed last week, but declined a second in-person interview with owner Shad Khan and GM Trent Baalke. Wednesday of this week, agreed verbally to Tampa to remain offensive coordinator. They were going to make him the highest paid in the game. Thursday, while Jacksonville was parting ways with GM Trent Baalke, Cohen was in Jacksonville meeting with Khan, a meeting many reports describe as secretive, reports even alleging Cohen was radio silent with Tampa and or telling Todd Bowles he was with a sick child. Today, Cohen named Jacksonville head coach. Buccaneers are reportedly upset. Khan is releasing statements saying, I had to make this move. Mina, I have a couple of questions. What is this? Did Cohen do anything wrong? And does the commotion around verbal promises and secret meetings give you pause on hiring a head coach?
I would never begrudge a coach for taking a big opportunity. There's very few head coaching jobs. Liam Cohen took one. That's fine. We're still unwinding exactly the timeline, but what is very clear to me is that none of this would have happened if the Jacksonville Jaguars had done the thing everyone thought they would do as soon as the season ended and parted ways with their GM, Trent Baalke. They waited, and that is why Liam Cohen backed out. Then they fired him. Then he came back. So for me, the worst look here is for the Jaguars because of their general mess around the firing of Baalke.
Courtney Cronin.
I don't have any pause about it. NFL hires can be messy from time to time. From the Jacksonville side, Shad Khan did exactly what he had to do. He found out that Ben Johnson didn't want to come there because of the front office structure. Liam Cohen had that same sort of pause, so he fires the GM and then goes back to his top choice. You can't fault him for then being like, oh, I'm just going to go whoever's available next. No, go back to your top choice and up the ante. And from the Cohen perspective, there was a report out there that he wouldn't have become the Bucs' highest paid OC had he been talking with the Jaguars, so you got to do what you got to do.
David Dennis Jr.
This is about the Jacksonville Jaguars and the mess and my concerns about how they're going to handle anything going forward if they can bungle this in the way that they did. You have a coaching hiring process in which the owner says maybe the coach could get rid of the GM if they want to, then have the GM as part of that process. Like, what do you think exactly is going to happen there? And then you get rid of the GM once the coach leaves. It's just a mess of the Jaguars making. I'm wondering how they're going to handle things moving forward when they're making personnel decisions, things that are trying to elevate this franchise to the next level.
Typically, the GM might hire the coach. In this instance, David, though, what you were referencing was last week. This week, for Khan to come down and say, you know what? I want the coach first. We're going to let the GM go. How do you view that?
Well, Khan comes in and says, I'm making a swift decision. You didn't make a swift decision. A swift decision would have been getting rid of the GM when everybody thought you should have gotten rid of the GM. This is part of his making and his making of this mess.
And Kevin Clark.
Yeah, I finally get to agree with David Dennis, thank God. Everything worked out for the Jaguars. Like, it's okay. They got a great young offensive coach.
Okay.
They're going to figure this out. Like, they got rid of Trempowski. All is well that ends well. That's fine. To me, I'm not worried at all about how this went down. If you get rid of all the shady coaches, there aren't going to be football coaches anymore. That's how this goes. Nick Saban said he wasn't going to be the coach at Alabama. Bill Belichick resigned on a napkin one time. Bill Parcells backed out of handshake deals. That's how this industry can work sometimes. I'm totally okay
Fatalist
with it.
Kevin
Bucs
Clark, but
understand
okay.
it. The Jaguars got their guy.
David, did you want to address something?
Did Kevin Clark just say the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to figure this out? When in the history of the Jacksonville Jaguars have they figured this stuff out? Like, I don't have any faith in them doing that because that's not what the Jacksonville Jaguars do under this ownership.
Well, let me ask from a coaching perspective. What is Cohen bringing the Jaguars? Bringing Trevor Lawrence. Mita Kimes, around the horn to you.
Yeah, I think they backed into the right answer because I do think Cohen is a good fit for this team. So Trevor Lawrence, when he played the best football of his career, had the third fastest time to throw. This year with Liam Cohen, Baker Mayfield had the quickest time to throw of his entire career. He calls a very quarterback-friendly offense. He's also been very good at designing and adapting the run game in Tampa Bay. So I am very confident in his ability to improve things for Trevor
Around the horn to you.
It's the Sean McVay influence on the run game that matters the most to me when I'm looking at what it does for Jacksonville, because he took a Bucs rushing attack that was statistically the worst in the NFL in 2023 to a top 4 unit last year, and they're the only team in the NFL this past season that was top 5 in both rushing efficiency and in passing.
And David Dennis Jr., you don't believe anything can happen because it's the Jacksonville Jaguars. I've heard you guys say that about teams before. That was said about the Washington Commanders 12 months ago, and now they're a game away from the Super Bowl. More coaching news. Adam Schefter reporting. The Las Vegas Raiders have a head coach now, and it is an old familiar face. Pete Carroll has returned to the league after a year away, and the Raiders land a coach with a ring and maybe a monocle on a certain meme. Courtney, buy or sell the hiring and the fit in Vegas?
I'm buying it. They desperately needed stability out in Las Vegas. They've had 4 coaches since 2021. I know it's weird thinking about Pete Carroll and Tom Brady teaming up now to go win a Super Bowl. Maybe Brady said, don't run those goal line slants anymore.
Ooh.
But all jokes aside, think about the last time Pete Carroll took some time off before getting back into coaching. At USC, within 2 years, he had a top 5 program and then back-to-back national championships. It's a good hire for the Raiders. It is a stable hire for the Raiders.
Kimes, you caught a ricochet there from Courtney Cronin. Please go ahead.
Nobody's talking about the goal line slant, Courtney. I do think Pete Carroll was a good hire for a few reasons. Leadership, culture, everybody knows he's excellent at those things. He's good with a young quarterback. Russell Wilson obviously started his career there. I think the Raiders are going to have to find a rookie quarterback this offseason. And he's very good at coaching DBs. This is a pass defense that was one of the worst in the NFL last year. I trust Pete Carroll.
Kevin Clark?
Listen, life's all about expectations, and there were teams like the Seahawks at the end of their run that didn't like the idea of winning double-digit games, losing in the first round of the playoffs. The Raiders would kill for that. The Raiders would have killed for that for the last 20 years. They are seeking credibility in the way that very few franchises are. They just need an adult in the room. This is a home run hire, and I think there are going to be teams this hiring cycle in 6 months who are going to regret not hiring Pete Carroll.
David Dennis Jr. after the horn.
Yeah, Pete Carroll's going to figure this thing out. He knows how to. He's a team whisperer. He's going to get, who they want. What's important here is that they get a quarterback from this draft. They need to have somebody that can, that he can really.
Although you don't think the Raiders are going to Raider. You just thought the Jaguars are going to Jaguar. Teams here. Thank you for your time, David, Kevin, Kimes, and Cronin. That's our showdown next. NBA All-Star starters. Here it is. This is it. This is the list. One note. You see Eastern Conference guards Jalen Brunson, Donovan Mitchell. LaMelo Ball won the fan vote for Eastern Conference guards by a wide margin. 400,000 and 20% of the vote. Fan vote only makes up 50% though. Players 25, media 25. Ball was third in players, 7th in media. Does LaMelo deserve to be a starter if he won the fan vote by such a wide margin? Around the horn, Mita Kimes.
Yeah, I'm with the fans here. I mean, I think they're looking at LaMelo, and he's leading all of those guards in points, rebounds, and assists. I suspect he didn't get the player and media vote because he's not playing winning basketball with his team, but that's not what All-Star is about to me, and I think his performance should be rewarded.
Courtney Cronin.
Yeah, All-Star is about the best players in the NBA. He's averaging 29 points and 7.5 assists. I get the media vote probably weighs the fact that the Hornets are 11 and 29 right now, but give the fans what they want. Give them LaMelo.
Okay, so you're both taking the fan side and not the media side. I was tempting you there. Let's see. Okay, let's split.
Yeah, forget the media.
Yeah, we'll move
What do
on.
they know?
Jokic from 66 last night. Of course he hits it. We're showing it to you. That'd be a great segment where we set something up and then he doesn't. He just misses. But 66-footer and also his 5th straight triple-double. And his line, 35, 22, 17. Cordy, what's the most impressive part?
The most impressive part, naturally, statistically, we've never seen something like that in a game since Wilt Chamberlain. But think about the sheer strength of that throw. He was like half-stepping that when he launched it and it went in the basket.
Exactly. All right. Mina Kimes?
I mean, I've seen him do that before. That stat line for the triple-double is wild because, Tony, it reflects what he is doing over the course of the season. Right now, he is top 3 in all of those categories. That has never happened in the NBA. We are seeing history.
I don't know. To get a 66-footer up and just so casually toss it, to me, was what jumped out most in that one particular moment. Courtney Cronin takes the face.
So we know how difficult it is for fans to hit a half-court shot, and we've seen it happen at halftimes across college basketball this season. But have you ever seen somebody putt for a Porsche? That happened at a Nebraska basketball game on Wednesday. Look at this thing. It went 94 feet across a surface that is effectively ice into that tiny little opening. The amount of pressure that would be on me to try to putt that thing for a Porsche Macan, perfect for the climate in Nebraska. I don't think I could do it. Congrats to that guy.
I like that Nebraska red for that Porsche.